Hi, Amber. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. It's so great to see you.
It is so fun to be here, Catherine. Thanks for inviting me.
My pleasure. Why don't we start with just letting the listeners know a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Okay, awesome. So I'm Amber Brueseke. I'm the owner of Biceps After Babies, and I founded that in 2016 because I was a mom of four and really had this something on my heart that I wanted to share with women, which was that just because you've had children, just because you're a mom, doesn't have to mean that your fittest days are behind you. And so I started the brand Biceps After Babies with this idea of, you can get biceps after babies. You can get a great body after babies, that life isn't over when you have your babies. And so I speak mostly to moms, all to women, mostly to moms, about how to become the fittest versions of themselves, both, physically and then also mentally, and then with the food that they eat and the exercise that they do.
Amazing. Now, the industry that you're in, let's face it, is quite saturated. Like there's
Yeah.
a lot of people. So, how did you find your pocket or your niche or your way of standing out when you
Yeah.
started?
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing is there are a million and one health and fitness coaches in the industry. And the converse to that is there's also a million and one people who need help and support in their health and fitness journey. And so I look at other people in the industry doing what I'm doing. In fact, some of my best friends are some of my also closest competitors. But we always are talking about how there's more people than any one of us could ever help. And so I think that is very similar in a lot of industries where when we get scared because there's other people doing what we do, I like to take a step back and say, yeah, but how many people need the help that we are providing? And so there's plenty of work to go around. There's plenty of people's lives that need to be transformed. And just because there's a lot of us doesn't mean that there's not space for one more. But to speak to your point of, how did I find my crew? How did I find the people who I speak to and who are a part of my community now? And I mean, I think the answer is really simple. I think it is basic attraction and repelling through being authentic and sharing what you want to share. And if you're naturally sharing the things you want to share, the things that you think are important, the people who resonate with that will find you and they will be attracted to you. And the people who are like, that's a hell no for me, they're going to leave. And that retraction and repelling process is exactly how you over time find your people. But it requires you to show up authentically, which I think
Mm.
we could talk about that. That's a buzzword in the industry, but I think it really does it. It requires you to show up authentically because that will naturally attract and repel your tribe.
Yeah. And you're so true. Authentically is a buzzword. So, how do you find your voice then in showing up authentically? What does that mean for you then when
Yeah.
you create content and sort of that sort of thing?
So it's such an interesting question because one of the things that I do now, I started with coaching clients and I still coach clients, and I do a lot of that, but I've also started moving into now coaching coaches and teaching them and certifying them to be able to become health and fitness coaches. And we had a conversation in our group just this last week. People were asking, saying, "Hey, I'm a new health and fitness coach. Social media is so scary. I don't know what to say. I want to be authentic. I don't know how to be authentic." It's like we hear this word. It's like we want to be authentic. How the heck do you be authentic? How does one show up authentically? What does that even mean? And I really when this client asked this question, I really encouraged her that authenticity takes a while to find. I think people think, "Oh, I can just show up authentically," but I think authenticity is a refining process of figuring out when you put something out, did that feel authentic? Did that feel like me? Was I after I put that out, was like, "Oh, I shouldn't have put that out because that doesn't really jive with me," or was I really happy that I put that out no matter what people said? And that is a process of experimentation. And so I think a lot of new coaches hold themselves back because they're like, "I don't know what to say. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to say something that's not authentic. I don't want to, ruffle any feathers." And so what they do is they don't put anything out. And you're never going to find authenticity if you don't ever put anything out. And so what I found as I was growing my Instagram account is that I was willing to just put things out there. And then, of course, you're going to do a gut check before you put it out there. Like I'm not just putting anything out there, doing a gut check before I put it out there. But if I really feel like, this is authentic to me, I'm going to put it out there. And then I'm going to see how I feel in a week from now, in a month from now. And if you scroll back through my Instagram account, you will see different versions of me all showing up quote unquote authentically in that period or that phase. And there's like a refining process that comes through of like, I posted that picture of me in a bathing suit, and like at the time I was okay with it, but it's not really the vibe I'm going for. It's not really authentic to me right now, so I'm not going to do that anymore. And I think being willing to find the authenticity by almost veering a little bit too far either way of that felt really good to me. I'm going to do more of that. Great. Let's zone in on that. Or, hey, a couple weeks later, that didn't really feel great to me. I'm not going to do that anymore. It's okay. You did it. You tried it. What didn't feel authentic to you, and we can refine it over the period of time, but you have to be putting things out there to have those experiences of what actually feels like this. Yes, this is my message. I tell you what, my message, I'm still refining my message, but I feel like my message didn't even get clarified until like years into my journey, having tried lots of different messages that weren't quite it, but we're close enough to get started. And then over time, you kind of, yes, this is it. This, I want to, solidify more on this topic.
Yeah, and that message evolves over time. Like your voice
So
evolves over
much.
time. Like it's never going to be what it was 5 years from, the past to like 3 months ago to, last week. It can always change. And that's the exciting part about it, I think. At least
Mhm.
it is for me to know that you're not stagnant in saying the same thing over and over again. You can refine and tweak it and shift it based on
Totally.
trends and what you see and what's going on and your forward thinking and your vision and how that differs to what other people are speaking about that same topic but in a totally different way.
Yeah, and what lands for people. I think as an educator, as a teacher, I'm always looking for that feedback of I used a different metaphor this time, or I used a different word, and people's eyes lit up, or they understood the topic, and now I'm zeroing in on that and saying that landed for that person. Okay, that I'm gonna explain it in the future using that same term or that same metaphor or that same word or whatever. And so over time, I've been able, because I think a lot of us, what we're doing as content creators is we're taking big topics and we're trying to make them applicable, right? We're taking a big concept of authenticity and we're trying to make it super applicable to a specific situation for a specific client. And so it can be challenging to help people grasp and understand big concepts. And so being able to play around with words or ways of teaching or language or metaphors or whatever we're doing to try and get these concepts into our clients' heads, you have that feedback from your clients over time. And that's been one of the best ways that I've been able to streamline my messaging and be able to connect with more people is I listen when things resonate and I hear it and I say, oh, that resonated. Cool. I'm going to teach it again the same way. And so I
Mhm.
think over the years, I've gotten better and better and better at teaching these difficult concepts because I'm listening for feedback from people of what's landing and what's not. And I'm refining over time.
So good. That's it. And that's where you start to find your voice in your content creation as well, right? So
Mhm.
that it goes from not just being polarizing for the sake of being polarizing or not doing what everyone else is doing, following the same templates for creating content and creating reels. You start to find what's resonating with your audience, speak to them, speak to their problems, the things that they're saying to you in your own unique way.
Mhm. Yeah, and so, I mean, you what you just said of, like, speaking to your audience's problems, speaking to the concerns that they had is one of the best tips for anybody who's looking for content creation ideas, is go to your audience. Ask them, "What are you struggling with? How could I help you? What feels hardest? What are the questions that you have?" And I don't care if you have an audience of 1 or an audience of 1,000 or audience of 1,000,000. If you even have one person in your audience, you have somebody who you have their ear, you could ask them their pain points, their struggles, what's confusing to them, and that is going to give you loads and loads and loads and loads of content to be able to create for the people who are showing up for you. And so if you're a content creator and you haven't spoken to your audience through the DMs, by getting on a phone call with somebody, I mean, let's bootstrap this. If you're a new entrepreneur, how often are you getting on phone calls with people who haven't bought your program but could be a good fit, and just learning about them, learning about their struggles, learning about what they want to know about, learning where the pitfalls are of their journey. And once you identify those, that's months and months and months of worth of content creation that you can speak just to the people who are already showing up for you. And of course, as you speak to those people who are just showing up for you, are already showing up for you, you're going to attract more like it. But we got to show up for the people who are already showing up for us. And I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs feel like there's some magic number. Like when I hit 100 followers, then I'll show up and like create content, or 1,000 or 10K or 100K. I'll be legitimate when. And I will tell you, as somebody who I just recently hit 100K on Instagram, nothing freaking changed. Like literally, it was so anticlimactic. It really, really was. There was no difference in me, my brand, my how important I am from like 99 to 100K. But I think so many people feel like when my follower count reaches insert number, then I can start really creating content for people. Then it's worth it to create content. If it's not worth it to create content for that one person, even if it's your mom that's following you, it's never going to be enough for thousands and thousands of followers.
Yeah, it's so true. It's the same thing when they say, you know, when you're an entrepreneur and you make your first 100K, you think, oh, everything's going to change. And it doesn't.
Yeah. No, it doesn't. It's just different,
It's
right?
just
It's like
different. Yeah.
it's just different. There's still problems, there's still insecurities. They're just different now. There's still
Yeah.
fears. I just came back from a mastermind. I was in a room full of 6 and 7 figure entrepreneurs, and one of the exercises was we were to write down one of our goals, one of our things that we were working towards, and then one of our fears, and we went and put them up on a board. And it was fascinating to read through all the fears of these 6 and 7 figure, multi-million dollar a year entrepreneurs, and all of our fears were all the same. Like they were all the
Yeah.
same. It was all around losing what we'd built. It was all around losing clients. It was all around losing our integrator. It was all, I mean, it was so like, it was just fascinating to look at these fears
Mm.
and realize the fears, they're always going to be there. It doesn't matter what level you get to. Those fears, they just kind of morph, but they're all essentially still the same. Doesn't matter at what level you are. It's just different.
That's exactly it. We're all humans. That's the human condition. We
Yep.
all think and we all feel and we all have those same thoughts and insecurities. The amazing thing about that, coming back to using your voice and showing up on things like Instagram and TikTok and all the, podcasts, all the things that are out there,
Mhm.
is that if those thoughts are driving you on a consistent basis, it's going to show up in your content.
Oh, 100%.
Have you ever
100%.
noticed that, like, for
Oh,
yourself?
yeah.
Because like, you post all the time and you always look so confident and you've got, such great variety and things going on. But do you ever notice that sometimes you post something or you're about to post something and it just doesn't sit right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, like I said, the fear doesn't go away. In fact, I think in some ways, the fear can get stronger the more followers you have, because you attract mean people. Like you
Oh,
attract haters.
yes.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? In fact, we had one of the hot seats that we had at the mastermind was somebody who has a very large audience, and she was noticing herself. She like asked a question about like wanting to do podcast stuff, and we kind of circle back around is like, where is this coming from? Why are you kind of wanting to pivot it? You're doing so
Mm.
successful on social media, you're kind of wanting to pivot to podcast. And it came out that like one of the reasons she wanted to pivot to podcast was because she was getting, her reels were going viral, and she was getting so much hate on the reels that she like wanted to get out of Instagram for a while. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it was just interesting that her solution to that was to just jump ship and go do something else. But having a large audience sounds fantastic until you realize that it also comes with, again, pain points. It's just different pain points. The more people you attract, the more people you're going to have that disagree with you.
Mm.
And learning to be okay with that, and learning to see that as not meaning anything about me, is a growth process for a lot of
Mm.
people, and has been a growth process for me as well.
Wow. Okay. So then how do you deal with the haters?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the first thing is, the more authentic you are, the more you're going to attract your tribe. And your tribe does pick you up and your tribe does support you.
Right.
So I've seen a couple times when I'll get comments, and even before I can say anything about it, like my audience is already
Oh,
on it.
I love
So
that.
I think that's, if you cultivate an engaged audience, like they're going to have your back. But I think at the end of the day, like I just have to remind myself that it's not about me.
Mm,
The comments aren't about me and the successes aren't about me. And I think when I make why I show up about the people I'm serving and not about me. It's not about whether people like me. It's not about whether people agree with me. It's really about, can I help somebody else? And when my focus is outward facing instead of inward facing towards myself, then I'm
mhm,
able to handle it. It's not about me, it's about the people that I can show up and serve. And if that means somebody doesn't like it or they disagree with me, that's okay, because at the end of the day, it's not about me. It's about the audience that I can serve and the people that I can show up and make a difference in their life. And that's what I have to refocus my brain on when you get someone who says something stupid to you and you're just like, "Oh my gosh. It wasn't meant for
yeah.
you." Obviously.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I guess it does get easier over time. Those first few comments, it probably stings a little bit, but then
totally.
you learn how to handle it.
Yeah, to some extent you develop a thicker skin. Um, but I also don't want people to think that it ever goes away. I think
Mm.
we are conditioned as humans to want to belong. We are
Yes.
conditioned as
Yeah.
human to want to be in connection with other humans. That is a natural, normal human phenomenon. And so, yes, while you get better, like you have more experience, you're able to coach yourself through it, you have develop a little bit thicker skin. I don't know, I know a lot of content creators who have very large accounts and they still share that, like, you're still human, like things still hit you. In fact, at this mastermind, one of the ideas was we formed like a text train. And it was like a social media text train. So if somebody posts something mean about you, or you need like to vent about a follower that said something, or whatever's posted online and you're struggling with it, we have this like text train of all of us that we can throw it out there and get support and get help, because we're all human. It doesn't matter if you have 1 million followers or 100 million followers. It still stings when someone doesn't like you or when someone says something mean about you. So I think, yes, you do toughen up. Yes, you get a thicker hide. And also, it's just part of the experience. Like, if you want to have a big platform, there's things that come with a big platform. And part of that is not everyone's going to agree with you. And that's having some sort of support network to be able to deal with that is really important.
Yeah. So what drives you is serving others, serving your
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And their transformation. And
Yeah.
if I sit back and don't post something because, oh, someone might be mad at me, now I'm holding back what's possible. I'm holding back their transformation from them. I'm holding back the
Hmm.
service that I could have to them. And it's not about me. The
It's
less it
so good.
becomes
So
not about
true.
me and more about them, the more I can show up consistently for them and more powerfully for them.
And did you find that that's really where the growth started to happen for you when you started? Because I think for a lot of us, we start with, what are other people going to think about me? Or
Yeah.
what do other people want to hear from me? And then when we stop all that noise and we really make it about them and get out of our own way, did you find that that was a big leap for you?
Oh, for sure. And this is something I teach my coaches as well, because a lot of coaches have that same problem when they get into a coaching conversation with someone. They're so in their head that they can't even like be present with the
Oh,
client. they're
right.
they're going over like, what if I say the wrong thing? What if they hate me? What if they're not going to sign with me? What if I like mess this up? What if they think I'm an idiot? And they're so in their head that they can't be present with the client and actually
Mm,
have a human to human connection. And so I teach my clients that the same thing is like, the more that you can, again, stop making it about you. It's not about you. Stop making it about you. We're humans, so we want to make everything about us, but it's not about you. And when you can really show up in that frame of service and really be with the person that you're with, connect with that person, whether it's on social media, whether it's on a coaching call, whether it's when you're sitting down to lunch, when you can really connect with that other human being and be with that person and stop making it about yourself, you show up differently. which is exactly what you were saying. We show up
Yeah.
differently when I'm showing up for you than when I'm showing up to prove I'm cool. I like to prove I'm like know what I'm talking about. Like I don't need to prove that to anybody. I'm showing up to serve, and that translates. People hear that, they feel it.
Mm-hmm.
You're all about like it's not just what the words that you say, but it's like how people receive it and how the feeling that comes behind it. When people feel
Totally.
that, that's authenticity, right?
Yes.
That's what you're saying. That's authenticity, is they like it's the feeling behind the words that you're saying. And if you're showing
Exactly.
up saying all the right words, but it's coming from I don't know if I'm good enough. I don't know if they're going to want to buy from me. I don't know if I'm smart enough. I don't know if I'm pretty enough. Like if that's the energy that's behind it, people are going to feel that. And that's not an attractive energy.
It's
It's a
so
repulsive
it's
energy.
not exactly. It's repulsive.
Yeah.
And in acting, we have something on stage called the fourth wall. Have you heard of that?
I feel like I have, but could not explain it to you. So tell me
So
about it.
if you've ever seen a play on a
Yeah.
stage, right? You're
Mhm.
in the audience. When you're on stage, you've got basically three walls. You've got the
Mhm.
back behind
Yeah.
you. You've got the two wings. So those are like your other two walls. And that's like your world. So when you're acting with somebody in a scene on a stage, that's your whole world. That fourth wall is imaginary.
Mm.
There's this imaginary wall between you and the audience. So you can't actually see the audience. They
Mm.
can see you. So it's like voyeuristic. They're seeing into your world, into
Mm.
your reality. And when you break the fourth wall, now you see them. And
Mm.
in a sense, that's what we want to do with our audiences. We want to bust down that fourth wall. There's such an invisible barrier that we've created this bubble around ourselves for protection,
Mm. That's so good.
for fear of sometimes getting hurt, but also truly being seen for who we are. We're afraid of that judgment of what are other people going to think of me, or if I really say who I am or show my passion or show what I want to do or express how I really feel, how are other people going to receive that?
Yeah.
So there's this
That's good.
fourth wall, and we can smash it down and
Mhm.
just let people in and have that true connection. That's what
Mm.
people want in coaching, on content, social media, all of it.
So, Catherine, how do you do that? How does one break down the fourth wall?
I have a variety of tools in my toolkit to knock it
Pitch,
down.
pitch, 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 pitch.
No, but yeah, it's a beautiful thing, and you can feel it, like you
Yeah.
could feel that we had that connection there where we busted down that fourth wall and created a real honest connection
Mhm.
that isn't just about being professional, but it becomes personal. And that's really what people want these days,
So
is
good.
that personal connection. That's why people are going online, is to get that connection, because our reality is now we create a lot of connections through the digital world, less
Mhm.
so much in the person to person, right? We're starting to lose that understanding of how to do it in the flesh and blood.
Mhm.
So, how can we be there to support our audience if we are digital creators? How can we be there to really serve them and support them in a genuine way when they are going online to reach out to you? It's our jobs to be
Mhm.
there, to catch them, to support them, to nurture them, to be accountable for them, to
Mhm.
champion them, right? To lift
So
them
good.
up.
Mhm.
And
So
that's
good.
exciting.
It is exciting.
Yeah. Anyway, I digress.
I love it. No, I think you're I think you're absolutely right that people are looking for connection.
Yeah.
And I think um if you are again thinking about yourself, thinking about what do people think, thinking about oh everyone's going to think I'm stupid, no one's going to like this, you cannot create connection with another human being because you're in your head and you can't create connection with someone when you're only in your head. And
Yeah.
so being able to get outside of your head, gets outside of yourself, think about who it is that you are connecting with and just put it out there. That is where that intimacy is
Mm.
created. And that is where relationships are made and people buy from people they know, like, and trust. And that's how you get there.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. So it's exciting to hear that you're doing that with your coaches, that it's like you're helping that next generation of coaches to
So
now
fun.
serve others as well. So talk me through, how does that work now for you? Because you've got your Biceps After Babies, you've got your moms, or primarily moms, that you serve, and now you've got this coaching certification, these coaches that you're working with. So what does that new level of evolution for you look like?
Yeah, I mean, it's super exciting because to me, it's just a continuation of the mission.
Mm.
Is once you personally have a transformation, most of us, our inclination is to share that and to want other people to be able to go through that experience, right? It's like you watch a great movie, all you want to do is like tell all your friends, watch this great movie. And it's the same thing with any type of physical or mental or spiritual transformation. As you go through it, you just naturally want to share it with people. And so that's what we started seeing is people were going through our signature program, Macros 101, and they were coming out with a transformation. And now they were just jazzed to share it with other people and be able to help other people go through the same experience. And so it became a very natural progression of like, well, I guess now the next step is to teach you how to do that, to teach you how to go out and coach other people. And it's a beautiful sequence because a lot of the women that I'm working with are moms, and a lot of them are stay-at-home moms or wanting something outside of, you and I are both moms, so we know how amazing it is to be moms, and we also know how amazing it is to have, other identities outside of being a mom. And
Yeah,
so I love being able to serve moms in that way, in helping them to develop a skill that allows them to be able to go out and serve the world. And so that has been a very natural evolution of some of those people who go through Macros 101 naturally want to learn how to coach and be able to help other people have that transformation. And so we created our coaching academy and our coaching certification to be able to help them and assist them and be able to do that. And in that program, we go deep into not just the science, because the science, I love science. I'm a former nurse. I love the science of nutrition. I love, all the physical aspects of health and fitness, but we go very deep into what holds most people back from their health and fitness goals, which is the mental stuff. It's what you believe about your body. It's what you think is possible for yourself. It's, what you've told yourself has to happen in order for you to be successful. And so we go through a lot of that mental work. And I train my coaches in what we call transformational coaching to be able to get down to that root cause of what's keeping people stuck. So
I
that's been
love
the next
that.
evolution, and it's been super fun to be able to serve those women.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
I cannot believe we have not even brought this up, but how many times have I heard people who are in the fitness profession lose their voice?
A lot.
A
A
lot.
lot. We do a lot of yelling in the fitness profession. I feel like that's probably what it comes down to.
Right. So it's less about yelling and it's more about supporting your voice, projecting, but with the breath support.
Teach me.
Okay.
Teach me a
All
little
right.
bit.
So I'm going to teach you.
Okay.
Okay. So usually when you're speaking to a big room and you're doing all these physical fitness activities, we tend to put all of our attention on our vocal cords or
Mhm.
folds, right? So we think
Yeah.
that in order to fill the space that it comes from here. But this
Mhm.
area is meant to be passive. It naturally vibrates and produces sound. The two areas that are meant to be active to help project your voice, one is the breath. So it's that lower belly breathing that goes down into the diaphragm, fills in that fills in that belly.
Mhm.
When that is supported, that's like the fuel in your tank. So that as it goes through up your body through that channel and vibrates, this actually does nothing. The next step is the articulators, which is your lip, your tongue, lips, your tongue, your lower jaw, and your soft palate. Those are your movable articulators. That's what helps form the sound into speech.
Mm.
And so when that's really active and you're placing the sound out to where you want it to go,
Mhm.
out to fill the space, it'll naturally go there. So it becomes
Mm.
taking your attention off of your vocal cords and starting with the breath. Because if you have no breath and you see, people doing that like shallow with
Shoulder
the
breathing.
shoulder, yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Then you're going to start speaking from here or yelling from here or shouting from here
Mhm.
instead of dropping down into that breath, nice and supported, so that you don't have to put any effort here. Effort is in your
Okay.
breath and in your articulators. There you go.
So would you recommend like someone who's just new to learning this of like feeling their belly, or like, is there any like external cues that you can give
This is
yourself?
where, yeah. And this is where it's really tough for people in the fitness field because
Because they can't walk around with their belly.
right. Like you're trying to suck in, like everyone's trying to suck in, right? So
That's
you're
so
actually
funny.
holding in your abs most of the
I love it.
time when you're working out. So it
Yeah.
goes against the grain to actually let the belly out so you can have more breath in. It's the same thing when I go to the gym. I
You struggle to brace.
struggle to brace and also my ribs pop out.
Oh, that's
So I have
bad. You definitely want to pull your ribs down and stack them in line with your shoulders and hips.
right?
My lifting
Exactly.
coach is always telling me like, pull your ribs down.
Yep. Yep.
That's
So
hilarious.
I
Oh,
do
so interesting.
F40. I do F45. Do you know what F45 is?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. So I do
Yeah.
F45 over here. So constantly, like my trainers will come in and they'll be like checking my ribs because they know I always pop them out. Like they know your bag
So
of tricks,
funny.
right? So they're always coming
Yeah.
in and correcting my ribs because they'll tend to pop out because I'm so used to opening up everything to breathe into the belly. And I got to do the opposite when I go to the gym.
That's hilarious. Well, I'm really good at stacking. I'm really good at bracing. I'm really good at holding that tight. I'm going to practice this. This is going to be good. I'm like already starting to like become more aware. I absolutely think I do that. Go from the throat like you were talking about and
100%.
not
I
from the
can
belly.
hear, well, I can
Yeah.
hear your, when you speak, it's retracting into your
That's
voice. So you
so
get a little
good.
bit of like a vocal fry going on
Uh-huh.
where you can feel it just kind of rests here at the ends.
Oh, so good. Okay.
Right.
I'm
So
gonna
two
practice this
things
now.
you,
Yeah,
you
teach
want
me.
to feel, okay. So you can put one hand on your belly and one on your ribs. And as you breathe, you'll feel the breath drop into the belly, but you'll also feel the rib cage expand
Expand.
outward. Because as you would know, you've got the intercostal muscles there, right?
I do know
So,
that.
right. So they make space as you breathe. So you should feel that expansioning and widening in the body. And if you don't feel that, check your shoulders, see if they're raising,
Going up and
right?
down. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So good. I'm gonna practice now. You taught me something. Thanks.
You're welcome. My
Now I have something.
pleasure.
Now I have something to be like self-conscious about.
You can bring it back to your coaches.
I can bring it back to my coaches. That's true. I love it. That's cool. That's super cool. Thanks for teaching me that.
You're welcome. Okay. So anything else you want to talk about?
Oh, I think it's been so good. I'm curious for you
Yeah,
to turn the tables back onto you in
go for
terms
it.
of building an audience
Mm,
and speaking authentically. We kind of mentioned a little bit. I know this is your thing, so you can probably speak to it way better than I can.
yeah.
Is how you say things, right? It's like we can say the same,
Yes.
we can teach the same content, but what's coming from within as you teach that is really what's important. So
Yeah.
what would you say to somebody who's like, I want to be more authentic in the way that I teach and the way that I show up online? What suggestions do you have for somebody to be able to do that?
That's so good. It's such a great question. And I will be the first one to say I have struggled with this. In fact, I actually released a podcast episode just the other day talking about how I had a voice block and how I lost my voice on social media for a good
Mm,
couple of months because I was finding out who I was and what my message was and how I wanted to share it. So I got silent for quite some time so I could figure it out and start
mm,
speaking from within instead of speaking to what I thought other people wanted to hear from me.
I
And
love
when
that.
that shifted, everything opened up for
Mm,
me. And like you were
mhm,
saying about being authentic and finding your way how to communicate that, I think is so important. So if I relate it back to me, everyone's saying, create content, consistency, get it out there, be on video, creating reels and TikToks and doing all the things. Well, I naturally gravitated from being an on-screen actor into voiceover because I didn't like being on camera.
so now everyone's like, just be on camera more, and you're like, I don't.
I don't
I'm trying
I
to
don't
get
like
away
being
from
on
that.
camera. Exactly. So I
Yeah.
found myself getting blocked going, okay, I need to create a reel. I need to create a TikTok. But could not even figure out what to say because I knew that that was a block for me. So I was holding myself back because I don't want to be on video. I hate being on video like that. So I stopped posting because of that. That's part of the reason why I created a podcast, is because I like being the voice of my brand. I don't like being the face of my brand. And I thought, well, then I'll just be the voice of my brand. If I like creating audio content, I'm going to use my voice and create audio content. So I'm now doing more of what would be considered like audiograms. Like you'll hear like a podcast, like a grab, like a 60-second promo for the podcast, right? And you'll hear the audio, let's say you won't see the video. I'm using that now to, I'm calling it for myself voice inspirations, where every day now what I'm doing is I'm just taking my phone and I'm just voice memoing whatever my thought is. And I'm using that to share my message, and I'm just having the words on the screen.
I love it.
And
That's
that
so
feels
good.
good to me. And that's
Yeah.
why I think when you were talking earlier about, finding your authenticity and finding your way and what works for you,
Yeah.
everyone's way of creating content is going to be different. And when you can find that sweet spot and what resonates with you and aligns with you, it feels so good.
That's really good. And to the point too is you try, I think, and it's like what I think entrepreneurs have to be willing to do is to try something and then be able to say, oh, that doesn't work for me. The
Yeah.
problem is a lot of entrepreneurs are like, that doesn't work for me, and you never tried it. You've made a decision before you've even tried it. But for you, it's like you had the experience on camera. You tried it.
Yeah.
It didn't work. And so now you know that, but you gave it a shot, you put it out there, you gave it a test, and then you're willing to say, hey, that's not for me. And I'm gonna go with what's more in alignment with the way that I want to show up.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean to say that you can, put it to bed forever. Like I can still show
Sure.
up on camera, but in ways that makes me feel comfortable, not feeling that I have to conform to the norm of what everyone else is doing. If that's not you, if you don't like dancing, don't dance,
Yeah, you do it your
I,
way.
I'm not a dancer. I'm not a pointer. So I never have done either. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But other people, they're
I love
fantastic
dancing.
at it.
Yeah.
I
I'm like,
know.
I
I
love
love it.
dancing.
Yeah.
I'll dance on reels. That sounds fun.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, why when you do it, it's awesome because we can
Yeah.
see that enthusiasm. We can see that you enjoy doing it. But when
Yeah.
you don't, it's like,
Yeah.
oh,
There's
it just
nothing more
doesn't
awkward
land.
than
Yeah.
watching someone dance who doesn't really want to dance.
And you can tell.
And you can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. For
Yeah.
sure. I love that.
Oh, anything else you want to ask me?
Oh, I mean, I have so many thoughts about like this whole voice thing now. Like I'm like super thinking about my breathing. And so this is what I'm taking away from this podcast
All
episode to
right.
practice
Well,
and work on.
you can always DM me.
Yeah. Slide into your DMs.
You know where to find me.
Yeah.
Well, where do people find you, more important? So if somebody is interested in your programs and your services, I know I signed up for Macros 101 and it's awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely most active over on Instagram. It's just Biceps After Babies over there. And then I have a podcast called Biceps After Babies Radio. I too am not a huge fan of video. That's why people are like, fitness, you should do
Interesting.
fitness. Fitness is so good on YouTube. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to be on camera. So I started a podcast. So I mean, I feel you. Everyone's like, you should totally do YouTube. It's such a visual platform. No, I'd rather do a podcast. So I have my podcast, Biceps After Babies Radio, and you can check me out over there.
Awesome. And we will link all that up in the show notes, of course.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Amber. It's been so much fun chatting away with you. And I really appreciate your time. And
thank you so much, Catherine. It's absolute blast.
A blasty blast.
A blasty blast.